Hi, my name is Alexis Wagner, and we're here today to talk about the Recruitment of Policy Leaders program. Both Sunny and myself, he'll introduce himself shortly, are alumni of the RPL program. I entered the government through the RPL program about 2.5 years ago, and I am currently the lead on food policy at the Department of Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada. Sunny?
Hi, thanks, Alexis. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Sunny Upal. I joined the Government of Canada through the RPL program about 10 years ago now, so it's been a while. And I'm currently the Executive Director for Partnerships and Engagement with the COVID-19 Vaccine Rollout Task Force at the Public Health Agency of Canada. So really grateful that you're taking the time to tune in and listen to us talk about this great program. And we'll walk you through some of the highlights, insights, and hopefully answer some of your questions on applying and next steps. So Alexis, I'll turn it over to you to share the presentation.
Perfect. I'll go ahead and share my screen.
Great. So first and foremost, Recruitment of Policy Leaders program. The 2021-22 campaign will be launching shortly in November. And a big part of that program and policy approach for the launch will be really using these resources like the video that you're seeing today to really explain the program, walk potential candidates through what RPL is all about, and various opportunities that await should you be successful in the process. And we'll go to the next slide. So why join the federal public service? And I think this is a great starting point because the RPL is one way to start your career in the federal public service. But the key points here, and I think these are points that Alexis and I will agree on, is the first is you benefit from an immense flexibility throughout your career. When you think of the Government of Canada, it's actually many departments and agencies and different organizations that come together to work on various issues that matter to Canadians. So when you join, you're a part of a very big family. And through that, you can really move around and get different experiences and work on different files and priority areas throughout your career. The second piece that's just as important is that you really can seize opportunities for professional development and growth. Because the government is so large and there is such a prioritization on talent management and development, there are countless opportunities to continue to learn, to continue to take on new challenges, to learn different skill sets throughout your career. And the last piece that I think is really critical is you can immerse yourself in the exciting work that is meaningful to Canadians. Every day, Alexis and I wake up and we know that our efforts are going towards working to better the lives of people in Canada. And that's something that's quite meaningful and quite encouraging. And I think you'll hear that from a lot of public servants who have the opportunity to work for the Government of Canada. And we'll go to the next slide. And a beautiful shot of the Parliament there just for you to look at as we go to the next slide. So what is RPL? And there are a couple of things here that we do want to cover. The first is it's a flagship annual recruitment program for the federal government. It's a way for us to find and recruit accomplished Canadians who have the energy, the knowledge, and the potential to become leaders in the federal public service. It does do things a little bit differently here in that in a normal or perhaps more traditional job recruitment setting for the Government of Canada, you'll go on to jobs.gc.ca, you'll find a position, you'll put your name in. This is a bit different. We find you first. So we look for candidates through the process that we'll walk you through today. And then if you are successful in the process, we will connect you with various job opportunities that match your interests and your area of expertise. So it's kind of like this wonderful career dating service where we bring you in, we try to understand what you want to work on in the context of the federal public service, and then find those opportunities that would be a great fit for you. The third piece, the fourth piece, I should say, that really is important in the context of this program is we recruit permanent, full-time, mid to senior level positions across government. So we recognize through RPL that the candidates and hopefully you, if you apply, are folks who've gone ahead, advanced education through your experiences, but also in some cases have worked or pursued higher degrees. And that experience and education is recognized. So you're not coming in at an entry-level position, and usually in a position and a level where you can dig deep onto various files and really shape recommendations that inform a lot of the policies that we create here. The other thing that I do think is important to note is there are some things that I think are important that you ask yourself if you're thinking about this program. And the first is, are you interested in developing creative solutions for Canada? And we have some really interesting, complex, and challenging policy issues that I think warrant bright minds and creative solutions. So if that's something that's of interest, I think RPL may be for you. The other is, are you interested in advising senior government officials in a fast-paced environment? A lot of us, I don't want to speak for Alexis, but I think she'll agree. We are in environments where we are providing advice, recommendations to decision makers. And the environment in which we work can be quick, can be dynamic. And if that's of interest, I do encourage you to think about this program. And the last is charting your own career path. As we mentioned in the earlier slide, the government of Canada is very big with a lot of different opportunities, different areas of work. And this program is really a way where you can chart a path for yourself with respect to various opportunities and really doing it based on what you're interested in and or the area that you've studied or worked extensively in the past. So if these descriptors are of interest and they speak to you, then we think that RPL may be for you. And we'll go to the next slide, please. So why should you apply? Well, I think we've gone through some of the, I think, perks and positive points around having a career in the government of Canada, but there are some clear things that this program offers. And the first is an immediate recognition of your talent and experience. So as mentioned, RPL candidates start at a more senior level than most other postgraduate recruitment programs. And it's also possible for you to apply to this at any point in your career. So it doesn't matter if you're finishing your PhD, if you've been out of school for several years, or you're just finishing your master's. It really is flexible. And that, I think, has been a huge success in terms of the program and the talent that we've recruited through it. The second is you really can access job opportunities across the public service. So earlier I mentioned that a more traditional pathway to a job is you'll go on the website, you'll look for different positions, but this is much more broad. We look at you, we're trying to figure out what it is that you want to bring to the table and what you want to work on. So a couple of things that we put a lot of priority on is we pair you with a mentor to help explore career options. So RPLers like Alexis and I will be volunteered or voluntold in some cases to work with you once you're successful to talk through what is it that you're interested in and what areas would you like to work in, and we help make those connections. We also help you meet hiring managers across departments and agencies to find the right fit. And that's a huge part of RPL. It's really that custom approach if you are successful in the process to find that role that speaks to your skills and your interest. And the other piece that is, I think, equally as important is the numerous opportunities for at-level mobility or promotions within and across all government departments and agencies. A very quick tidbit, as I mentioned, I've been here in the government for 10 years. I spent the majority of that decade at Environment and Climate Change Canada, where I had 5 different roles in 9.5 years. And each one was exciting, interesting, dynamic, and challenging. And then just recently moved to the Public Health Agency of Canada to work on COVID-19 and the vaccine rollout. So such diverse skill sets in less than 10 years. And I think that's just one example of many of the kind of career you can have in the public service. And the last piece that I'll mention is the amazing network of RPL alumni at all career stages. The program has been around for many years, and alumni are at all levels, right up to assistant deputy minister and deputy ministers within the government of Canada. And the really great thing is we all have this program in common. So one of the real strengths is there are regular opportunities, social opportunities, and also windows for mentorship and networking. And in parallel to that, training and professional development activities within the network as well. A little tidbit again, when I moved to Ottawa, I didn't know anybody here. I did not grow up in the city. And my first friends, the first people that I met and that I really connected with were all RPLers. And they're still my friends a decade later. And we're all there not only as friends, but there to really support each other in our career paths along the way as well. So definitely a strength of this program. And we'll go to the next slide. So what makes an RPL candidate successful? Well, there are a couple of things that we do look for. The one point that we do emphasize is they come from all fields and backgrounds, including public policy, social sciences, law, health, engineering. I have a background in biology. It really is not limited to any particular area of study. One conception a lot of times with policy roles in government is you have to study it in grad school or in undergrad, and that's not the case. We're looking for not only what you studied, but more so how you've used your education or advanced your education in the context of your career path. The second piece is you qualify for immediate hiring across the entire government of Canada for about a 2.5-year period. So from the time that you're notified that you've been successful, you have quite a bit of time to really work with the network to find the right job, but also consider wrapping up other commitments that you may have. So we have, for example, PhD candidates who are still in the process of finalizing their academic studies, and they hold off for a little bit of time before they start their careers in the government. The third piece is one that we touched on earlier, but you are assigned a mentor. And this is really an individual who's come through the program and will guide you in your job search, discuss your career goals and interests, and connect you with those job opportunities that will be a good fit. And I think that personal touch in terms of how we match you with the roles that'll be a good fit is really something unique to this program. And the last piece is really participating in those right fit meetings with senior executives and hiring managers to explore a range of job opportunities. We don't call them interviews because really what it is a conversation between you as a candidate who's qualified and different hiring managers and leaders who are looking for talent to bring into their department and organization. So this part, I always say, is quite special because you've gone through the journey of applying through this program. There are multiple steps that we'll touch on, but really at the end of it is an opportunity to meet some really wonderful people across the government to figure out what is that best fit for you. And that's the goal at the very end, finding the best fit between what the various departments and agencies are looking for and your interests and expertise. And we'll go to the next slide, and I will turn it over to Alexis for this portion.
Thanks, Sunny. So I'm going to now outline what probably everyone who's had their interested in the program based on Sunny's info. What do you do once you're ready to apply? And so the first step is a written application, and we'll be sharing the information on the links and dates and everything further along in the presentation. But the eligibility for criteria for the RPL, at least at the initial stage, includes 4 main pillars: education, policy relevant experience, leadership or initiative, and academic or research achievements. And so when you go to apply on the VidCruiter platform that will be linked at the end of the presentation and on our website, there are going to be 4 main questions that ask you to explain how you meet these criteria. And it's really important that you pick the best and strongest examples of how you meet each of these eligibility criteria to demonstrate them to the RPL screeners, who are actually RPL alumni themselves. So first of all, in order to qualify for the program, you must have an undergraduate degree in any discipline, as well as a master's degree, a PhD, or a law degree. Okay. And so, as I said, any discipline for the undergraduate degree, as well as any discipline for the master's or PhD or a law degree, but it has to be in partnership with an undergraduate degree. The second requirement is policy relevant experience. The reason why RPL requires this is because, as Sunny mentioned, RPLers enter at a mid to senior level. And so in order to qualify for that versus some of the other development programs available through the Government of Canada are truly development programs, in that you enter the government at a more entry level and you build your policy experience, you build your through different roles in the government. And it's not that there won't be that opportunity through RPL, but because you're entering at a mid to senior level, we expect that you have developed some of the competencies required to be a policy leader already. And so that can look like a variety of different things. It doesn't mean that you need to have previous on-the-job experience in the public sector, not at all. This program is designed to acknowledge and seek people who have diverse backgrounds and experiences. So what this could look like is whether you have research experience related to your field of study that might be related to policy, and you can see a tie. Maybe you made policy recommendations in your thesis, or you presented at policy conferences, recommendations based on your research or your PhD. You could have experience designing or assessing policies and programs, maybe through an NGO, or even consulting or the private sector. And this year, something that we've added, and you'll see the prompts in the application, is we're also interested in people who have lived experience interacting with government policies and programs, whether that be social supports or different types of experiences that give you knowledge and expertise that's we find really valuable from experiencing and living through different experiences and interacting with government programs. The second criteria is leadership or initiative. And this could include a really broad array of different activities that shows us that you have the capacity for leadership required to drive change in the government of Canada. This could be demonstrated through a whole host of activities, and you'll be prompted in your application with different examples. We're looking for people who have examples of realizing positive change or delivering results in either a professional, personal, or community setting. And this could include through volunteer service, through advancing equity, diversity, and inclusion in your workplace. It could include making significant contributions to the well-being of others in a personal setting, or overcoming adversity in your own life as well. And really, there's a broad array. I can't go into complete detail. If you're interested and want more evidence of what an example could look like, I would encourage you to attend one of our webinars where you'll have an opportunity to ask more questions of alumni who screen applications to talk about which examples might be best to pick for your application. Our fourth eligibility criteria is academic or research achievements. If you've applied to RPL in the past, you may notice that the wording has slightly changed. This is our criteria in which we're looking for, as it says, a strong record of significant achievements in academic or other research contexts. And so one of the ways you could demonstrate this criteria is through major scholarships and academic awards like the Rhodes, Trudeau, Fulbright, NSERC scholarships, as well as publications and peer-reviewed academic journals. But this year, something that you'll notice as well in the application that we've added is that we are interested in having people demonstrate examples of research achievements in a non-academic context. So that could look like the development of analyses, reports, research tools, data sets, IP, new technology, products or innovations that have been used by other researchers, by industry, by companies, communities, nonprofits, or Indigenous organizations, and had an impact in those communities. So that could look like in the private sector, you developed a new technology that a company commercialized and implemented. And the reason why we've made this change this year is to further broaden the diversity of profiles that are eligible to find placement through the Recruitment of Policy Leaders program. And moving on from that, so you'll see within your written application, the first step of RPL, those are the criteria we're assessing. Further along in the process, which I'll get to on the next slide, we do assess the knowledge and skills on the right side of this slide. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the next slide. Or on the next slide after this. So I think what I'd like to mention here is that RPL and the Government of Canada more broadly has a strong commitment to increasing the equity, diversity, and inclusion of the federal public service. And there has been a commitment made at the highest level of leadership in the government to make the public service more reflective than it is today of the population in Canada that we serve. And so one of the ways in which we are trying to improve our program, as well as our understanding of the public service, is through employment equity and self-declaration. So within your application to the RPL program, you will have the opportunity to self-declare as an employment equity within one of these employment equity groups. And you may self-declare as belonging to more than one designated group that you can see listed on the slide. It's completely voluntary, confidential, and does not in any way impact the assessment of your application. The reason why we ask people to self-declare is because we use this data statistically to help remove barriers to employment that are associated with the employment equity groups. So for example, just this past summer, we undertook a major review of the recruitment of policy leader programs and looked at what stages of our assessment were serving as barriers to different equity seeking groups, and have since revised some of the elements of the program. Those who have applied in previous years may notice the changes as you're going through the different steps. And we are continuously seeking to collect data and improve the program in order to encourage a wider variety of communities in Canada to be able to access the government through the program. It's also important that we mention at this step that there are accommodations available at each step of the program. There are opportunities, and it's stated within the application of how you can request accommodation for different needs that you may have in order to remove barriers and obstacles within the selection process. So new this year is that we are opening an additional application period specifically for Indigenous candidates. The reason why we're doing this is to encourage and support First Nations, Inuit, and Métis candidates through the RPL program. Any candidate is eligible to apply to our general campaign that is going to be open from November 16th to the 30th of this year. And then following the general campaign for all applicants, there will be an additional application window open from December 2021 until the end of February 2022, only for Indigenous candidates. Indigenous candidates are invited to apply during either the general campaign or during the additional application period, but Indigenous applicants must only apply once. And if they apply twice, only their first application will be considered. And it's important to note that the assessment criteria will be the same during both of the application periods. There'll be no difference. So for Indigenous candidates trying to decide whether you apply during the initial period or the second period, it depends on obviously your availability and when you're ready to make your application. But also note that if you do apply during the general window, that you'll be screened at that point. And so if you're looking for a job immediately, then I would encourage you to apply during the general window. If you need a little bit more time, then I would encourage you to apply during the additional window open from December until February. So this is the outline of the evaluation process. And I stated on a couple slides ago what the eligibility criteria are for the Recruitment of Policy Leaders program. And so those 4 main screening questions that I outlined will be assessed in the initial stage that currently applications will be open from November 16th to November 30th through the general window, and then from December until February for Indigenous applicants. Once we receive all of the applications, a team of RPL alumni will be screening the applications and assessing against those eligibility criteria that we outlined. So education requirements, policy relevant experience, leadership, and academic and research achievements. Following that, candidates who are successful in being screened through the initial stage will be invited by email to complete a written exam in winter of 2022. Traditionally, the written exam has taken the form of a policy briefing where there's been a scenario presented to candidates and they've been asked to develop a briefing note, which is a standard writing form used to brief officials in the Government of Canada. It's important to note that this exercise does not require any previous knowledge of how to write a briefing note. The template of a briefing note, as well as full instructions, are given to the candidate. We are still finalizing our format for the written exam for this year's campaign and experimenting with a couple different things based on our results from the past couple of years. So stay tuned. We may not have a briefing note this year, but what you can be sure of is that regardless of whether you have any previous experience in government, what we are trying to assess during the written exam is your ability to think critically and communicate in a written form. So your ability to be concise and articulate in a written form is really what we're assessing, not your ability to write in kind of a government lingo or have any insider knowledge of what's going on in the government. After the written exam, again, a series of RPL alumni will be screening and evaluating the exams. And those that are successful in the written exam stage will be invited to an interview in spring of 2022. The interview is conducted by a panel of 2 RPL alumni, as well as a senior government executive. And the panel generally asks questions that assess the knowledge, analytical skills, judgment, oral communication, and creativity of the candidate. We have a little bit of a fun style during our interviews. We probe a little bit with some questions to try and really get at the analytical skills and ability of a candidate to think on the spot. For those that come with an open mind, it can be a really fun experience. And certainly the alumni on the panel have a lot of fun with it. It's an opportunity to really show your ideas and demonstrate what kind of energy and creativity you can bring to the public service. Then following that, the final step is reference checks. If you've made it through the interview, which is really just to have a final check of your interpersonal relations, values and ethics, and leadership and initiative. And I should note at this point, it's, I guess, important to share that the RPL program is very competitive. In the past, we've averaged between 2,500 and 3,000 applicants per year. And generally there are about 50 or so candidates who progress from that initial stage all the way through to being placed or qualifying to an RPL pool and being eligible to be paired with mentor and search for a job through best fit interviews in the government of Canada. So it is highly competitive. And I think something important to note is that what we are looking for is the depth, significance, and breadth of the experiences that you've had in each of those criteria and requirements, as well as these additional competencies that are listed on this slide. And so what we are looking for is really people that have the capacity to lead change in the government of Canada and be policy leaders. So there are a lot of programs and different ways that you can enter the government. And so I think as you're filling out your application at the initial stage, there's an opportunity to think critically about whether the Recruitment of Policy Leader program is right for you based on your experiences that you have, that you're able to present in your application. And so maybe I'll pass it back over to Sunny for the final words, actually.
Thanks, Alexis. So if you're interested in applying, and we hope you are after hearing all the info that we had to share with you today, there are a couple of ways to keep in touch and keep updated. The first is canada.ca website. All the information you need, a lot of what we covered here, along with the links to the application, are there. We also have a very fun Twitter account that we encourage you to follow. It includes not only information on the program, but some highlights of alumni and folks who've come through the program as well. And equally as such, LinkedIn, a great resource professionally for the program as well. You can also register for live webinars and Q&As. These will be coming soon, and the link is there. And these, I think, as Alexis had already mentioned, will be a really great opportunity to get specific questions answered by alumni of the program. So if you do have any follow-ups after tuning in here, it's a great resource for you. We also have presentations from RPL alumni on our YouTube channel. And of course, if you have any questions on eligibility and accommodation measures, you can reach the RPL email that's at the very bottom of this slide. And with that, we just want to thank you again for tuning in. We hope you apply, and we really do look forward to hopefully meeting some of you in the interviews or even after, and wishing you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Sunny. Thanks, everyone.